to support amendment, Deputy President's amendment as well. And it's not that I've fundamental hang-ups about, referendums but I have a very strong conviction that the men and women and council officials looks after water so well in all weathers and all challenges over the decades, and that they need to be respected and treated well. And I don't know if the naming a date for the referendum is going to do anything to help their cause of not transferring by agreement, by consent, by the 1st of January 2023. That's going apace, and there's a lot of unease and unhappiness, and it's scandalous, as I'm concerned, that people joined the county councils in good faith. Many of them joined other sections as general operatives and whatever, and transferred into water and had gained valuable experiences as caretakers and plumbers and electricians and many other aspects of it, and as chemists and everything else. And now all of a sudden they've been bullied, literally, into a job that they didn't apply for, didn't work for. And would you blame them for being afraid to transfer, even if the conditions were right, into what's Irish water when just so unsound looking, the model at the moment? And the model and previous amendments that you had ministers setting up, advisory councils, everything else, more jobs for the boys, and not being responsible to public accounts until such time that they've everything read. They're long enough then to have their house in order. So I do want to maintain the water in public ownership. But I also want, if you allow me, Controller, to mention the people, you know many yourself, the people that set up and form group schemes and are still operating those group schemes, and the cost of the electricity and everything else now on them, and the chlorination plants and everything, they're getting very little supports. And they're out there. And what rights do they have? And the people who have their own pumps and wells, and the people who are only getting it from a stream. And they have no supplies, and no hope of getting a water supply. And we're forgetting about them. I mean, we can have referendums about, and like much other legislation we have here, it's grand, but it's irrelevant to many people. And there are thousands of them out, and tens of thousands of them, that have their own wells, their own septic tanks for wastewater. And there's only about 20 inspections in each county annually, and the grant, you can't get the so-called great grant to upgrade them unless you inspect it. So it's a tricky to loop again. And then we have the public schemes, sewer schemes, well, belching. Many villages in my county and towns into the river causing pollutants, and the EPA turned a blind eye, and the authorities. We're all for clean water and all for fair play. And fair play is fine play with me. So we must respect those workers in the service and their service their farming colleagues are given as well. And that must be written in. And as we're on amendments and plebiscite or referendum, any possibility of a plebiscite for Tipperary, for the people to ask them, are they happy to allow their water to be pumped all the way from Tipperary right up through the country? I'm nearly finished. But I mean, they're entitled to be consulted too, and to pump it into leaky pipes in Dublin. I have nothing against the people in Dublin, because someone thinks I have, but there's 50% of the water leaking in Dublin here, and when it leaks out, when there's outages and everything else in, obviously other commodities leak back in, and some of them very unsavoury. I have a bit of experience in this work, so I know what I'm talking about. And it's not very. So I mean, I'm shocked that the Green Party haven't put this project to bed. First of all, by the runaway costs they're going to be, but second of all, because of the damage going to the environment to bring that massive construction right through the winter of our country, and of no benefit to any of the areas that is passing through that have water shortages and outages. There's plenty of sources around Dublin, and wells, supplies, under supplies, and out in Polo if they're looked after properly. God, again, we're able to repair the leaks in their capital city, and we can do them. And we had an ideal opportunity during lockdown. There was no one on the streets, but there's no effort to do it. So we must be fair to all the people. Thank you for your attitude.
I thought when you talked about Tipperary and a referendum that you might be going to suggest that you secede from the state or something. So,
no.
It's only the Shannon water you're worried about.
We're happy. We're happy. I was there at the start of it.
Minister.
And just to, I will respond to Amendments 7 and 9 together as they concern the referendum on the public ownership of water infrastructure. Just before I go to the speaking notes, again, just to address some of the points raised by the deputies there in the notes as well, just in terms of the referendum. And I share the concerns of Deputy McGrath in terms of the Shannon project, but that's not being addressed here today. But I do, from an ecological perspective, I would have concerns about it. In terms of government support for the referendum, absolutely, and my own party's support for a water referendum is absolute as well. And I know concerns have been raised around local authority staff and other issues, but and again, just to pay tribute as I did earlier, the Federation of Group Water Schemes. I just to say I thank Deputies O'Brien, Gould and Callaghan for their proposed amendments, which require that the Minister to report on the proposed wording for a referendum on the public ownership of water infrastructure, the timeline for the referendum and other key considerations. Amendment number 7 proposes that the Minister lays a report before the Oireachtas Committee within 2 months of the passing of the Act. Amendment number 9 gives the Minister 1 month to lay the report. At committee stage, Deputy O'Callaghan proposed a very similar amendment which gave the Minister 6 months after the passing of the Act to provide the report on the wording and the timeline of such a referendum. This amendment was rejected by the Committee on Housing, Local Government and Heritage. Unfortunately, I cannot accept these 2 amendments as they do not come within the scope of this bill. As you know, this is a technical bill to separate Uisce Éireann from its parent company, Airvia. I can, however, advise deputies that Minister Darragh O'Brien expects to be in a position to bring forward definitive proposals on a referendum on water ownership for consideration by government in the near future. The Government's vision for a world-class public water system in Ireland, based on the full integration of water services in a national water services authority, is set out in the policy paper on water sector transformation, published February 2021. Public ownership is central to the vision and is already legally guaranteed. No change to state ownership of Irish water is currently possible without majority support in a plebiscite of the people in line with the Water Services Act of 2014. In the context of engagement at the Workplace Relations Commission on a framework for the future delivery of water services, the Department hosted parallel engagement with unions on a number of policy matters of relevance to workers, including a referendum on water ownership. A paper entitled Irish Water Transformation, the Wider Policy Context, was shared with unions on the 18th of July 2022. This paper reflects the engagement outcomes and is available to members at the Oireachtas Library. This paper sets out the planned approach to bring forward a referendum proposal on water ownership for consideration by government in conjunction with the anticipated recommendation of a proposed referendum on housing from the Housing Commission. So we can't be clearer that the commitment is there. It's there in writing in the Irish Water Transformation Policy document. It's there from government. So we are given that commitment that a referendum will take place in relation to water and housing. I know, and the concerns raised by Deputy O'Callaghan around what happened in other countries around structural adjustment programmes. That's not the case here. We have, even as it is, there is no possibility of changing the state ownership of Irish water without a plebiscite. So, again, just to give those assurances to members.